Warning, this is a rant by an engineer. This is a typical pair of consumer headphones. And as I was shopping for them, I've noticed that pretty much most manufacturers of every price point has sort of converged onto a particular design, and that is the swivel ear cups. Now, anyone who has an engineering background will tell you just how bad of an idea these are from a durability standpoint. And that's because the joint that holds on to the ear cup, that has to be cylindrical, otherwise it can't swivel. And that means that despite this super thick headband giving you the illusion of strength, the amount of material actually holding on to the ear cups is much less than the thickness of the headband itself. And you can see this on this broken headset here if you have a look. This is the thickness of the headband, and that small circular piece of plastic is actually what's holding on to this ear cup, which is the reason why it's broken. It gets worse, and that's because in order for the joint of that ear cup to not fall out of the socket, it needs to have a necking point, and you can't see that because that's inside the headband here. But I've made this cross-section drawing, and basically the cross-section looks a bit like this. There's a necking point right about there, and what that creates is something called a stress concentration, which further increases the chance of failure at that point. And the results are pretty obvious, really. The swivel joint will fail way before everything else in the headphone does. You can see this on the display models at the retail shops. If you think about it, that's awful. That just shows how easy it is for it to break. And basically you waste a pretty good pair of headphones for the most part, because it's also very difficult to repair this kind of mechanism. It's just a very small, very intricate piece of plastic that's got pretty much no surface for you to glue the broken off bit. It's like for example, this broken one here, the circular piece of plastic here is really tiny. There's no way you can glue that back together. And this model in particular is very bad, in which you pretty much can't tape it back together because there's just no flat surface for you to tape on. So that's a bit of a waste. This is the work pair, so I don't care. So one question you might ask is why they would design headphones this way, despite the fact that it's so crappy. And it might be, this is my hypothesis here, to do with packaging. When you swivel the ear cups around like this, you get a much flatter packaging, so the box can be much flatter. But that's not the only way to achieve a smaller package. Another one is folding ear cups. Now I'm actually using the same headphones to show you the folding ear cups design. That's a long story. Basically, I was looking for a headphones explicitly for a folding ear cup design because I think those are more durable. But due to the fact that I bought these online and I didn't look at the description properly, I ended up buying a headphone with folding and swivel, which means I've got two modes of failure now. Anyways, the folding ear cup design is actually much more preferred for folding for portability. This is a much better use of available space, and I would much more prefer putting these into my bag folded than say just having the swivel option available like that and putting this in my bag like that. It just seems so fragile. I have another headset which only does this, and it just takes up so much space as well. Now, isn't the folding ear cup mechanism just another fragile, failure-prone mechanism? Well, I disagree, and here's why. The axle that enables this folding is often made of steel. If the swivel joint was made of metal, I'd somewhat forgive it because metal is a lot stronger. But unfortunately, the swivel joint often has a fairly intricate geometry, which is very difficult to manufacture out of metal, which is the reason why it's normally made out of plastic. And think about the types of loads a typical pair of headphones would experience in rough handling. Say, you're crushing it to put it into your bag, or you're roughly handling it by the ear cups, or you impact the ear cups. If this had a swivel joint, then what happens is you get a fairly large bending moment. and this bending moment is very large because the ear cups are so big relative to the tiny swivel joint that probably goes about knee deep, and that means you have this hugely amplified force. For the folding mechanism, you don't get this bending moment. If you knock the ear cups, it actually folds to reduce the impact load. If you knock it this way though, then yes, you do getting bending moment, but here's the advantage of the folding mechanism is that because how wide this headband is, you can basically have a axle that spans nearly the whole width of the headband to basically mitigate the stresses on that axle. Now, I'm not sure why so many manufacturers are converging onto this particular design. Old headphones were generally not designed like this. They were more designed like the hearing protection earmuffs, which I've got an example of here. Basically, it uses a steel band all around here. This is much stronger. Admittedly, these might not be as comfortable. There's less adjustability, but the idea is the same. The older headphones often preferred metal over really thin pieces of plastic. And this is not much more expensive, I don't think, because this metal is quite thin. But it's much more durable than headphones. Like, I just treat these really roughly when I'm using them for work-related purposes. And there's a few modern headphones that are not designed like this. For example, the Sennheiser Momentums. They use a folding mechanism for the ear cups, but they also use a wide metal band to hold the ear cups on, not like the thin pieces of plastic that these ones use. I really like the way those are designed. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but I just really like the way they're designed. But if you want to sponsor this video, I'd happily take your money. At the end of the day, I am not a professional headphone designer, so I don't know why most headphones design like this. I'm guessing there's a pretty good reason. So if you want to disagree with me, feel free to put a comment down below. Thank you.